Hello folks, welcome to the second video of the heavy duty compressor. Today we'll be filling a 500cc tank. We have all the connections in place, and just as discussed earlier, we're going to just do a preliminary check. We have the water pump submerged in water. The suction cups are holding onto the base of the plastic container. We strongly recommend using a bucket of water with 5 to 10 gallons. For the sake of this video, we have inserted the water pump into a transparent plastic container so you can see the pump in action. We have attached a cable tie to the output, which is the thinner hose, just so that we don't want the hose coming out of the container. The engine should be water cooled at all times, so we need to make sure that the smaller hose and the larger hose, they're both completely submerged under water. I'm just going to power on the water pump so you can see the pump in action. After having tested that, I'm going to make sure my oil levels are in place. I have taken a look at the oil gauge. The levels should be above the 1/4 and below the 3/4. You can check the same in the manual. Do not start the compressor if the oil levels are not in place. Now we shall attach the female faucet. This is a 500cc bottle which is rated 250 bar. It's got a micro gauge on the tank. We'll attach the female faucet onto the male faucet of the tank. As in most air guns, you will see that the female faucet directly couples onto the male faucet, like your FX, your Benjamin Discovery, your Benjamin Marauder, and many other air guns. I'm going to have a secondary camera so you can see the gauge clearly. We have the pump submerged in water. We've tested the pump. We have the oil check done. We have the bleed port locked and closed in. We're now going to power on. And the final check would be at what PSI you want the tank to be filled. Make sure you check that. I have it set to 3000 PSI. So these are the 5 checkpoints. The first is to submerge the pump underwater. Make sure both the hoses are underwater. Start the pump and check that it is cycling water properly. Second is to check the levels. It's above the 1/4 and below the 3/4 level on the gauge. The third was to close the bleed valve. The fourth is to attach the female faucet onto the air gun. And the fifth, which is the most important, is also to check the auto cutoff. Now we have all our checks complete. We're going to start filling the 500cc tank.
Circuit is normal. You can turn on power.
As you just heard, that we have an automation on the pump which tells you, which runs a check of the oil levels, and it will confirm that the oil check is in place, and you can now start the compressor. I've just moved the air cylinder away from the compressor. There's quite a bit of vibration on the same table. I would also have to move the water pump. So we've just moved the water pump onto the floor, and we had to move the cylinder and the air pump away from the same table. So when you would be running the compressor, that would be from floor height, so there's no harm in keeping the bucket of water and the air cylinder right next to it. So let's go ahead and start. So we've started the pump. We make sure the water is cycling in the pump.
Circuit is normal. You can turn on power.
It ran a check for the oil levels and it said we could turn on the power. As you can see, the compressor did auto shut off to fill a 0.5 liter tank to 200 bar, which is 3000 psi. The first thing we're going to do is turn off the power switch. How do we disconnect the fittings from the compressor once we are done with the filling? The first thing we need to do is degas the pressure which is between the cylinder and the compressor. The fittings must not be disconnected without degassing the compressor. We're going to open the bleed valve. As you can see, the bleed valve does vent out the moisture and the water droplets. It prevents that from entering your air. Once done, you can disconnect the fitting. And as you can see out here, we have filled exactly to 200 bar and it did auto cut off. So the calibration of the gauge on the compressor is perfect. So guys, that's how you fill your air gun cylinder. Do let us know if you have any questions about the setup. You must follow safety when filling high pressure air into your air gun. We recommend running the compressor outdoors, but do make sure that once you're done with the filling, you keep them indoors and prevent dust. We highly recommend adding a dust plug onto the female faucet, which prevents any dust particles from entering your fill system. So do call us or write to us at sales@pcpshop.in if you have any further queries, and we'll be more than happy to assist you on the same. So guys, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more